single flame can light a million more.
We're gonna have ourselves some fun today. Yes, we are. So in this box is a firebox. And what I mean by that is this is an amplifier that caught on fire. And we're gonna talk about why and what happened. And then we're gonna rebuild it. So what happened here is what happens when you've got your amp out of your truck where you can't, God, this thing stinks, where you can't see it, like lay eyes on it, and fan quits. This fan quit, this one right here, and these three fans are still running. And keep talking on it. And it got so hot that this capacitor melted down. Let's make sure this is in frame and we can see it. This capacitor melted down and came unsoldered and fell down here and shorted the board out. Right here, directly underneath this fan. This fan here. And it continued to burn down and burn down and burn down and burn down. And the guy said he didn't know anything was going on until he seen the smoke coming out the box, and he shut the fans off and the smoke just kept on coming. So he went around in the back of his truck and grabbed on the leads and yarded this thing out, and it melted down everything. The insulation got soft because it was feeding a dead short. Now I went through and I pulled all these transistors out. Believe it or not, the transistors are still good. And so my mission today is I got to take all of this apart because this board's junk. I got to take all of this apart. We're probably going to reuse the heatsink. I got a bunch of stuff I got to replace. Mini coax. And I got to clean all this mess up. And I'm going to rebuild it. The thing I think is interesting is if you look down in here, the wires that come off that feed the distribution, they're not melted at all. Not deformed. But the wires coming out the box, they took the brunt of the punishment. So, I take some pictures. I'm getting some time lapse. And just because these transistors all burn up on the top, they're still good. So we're going to reuse these. But I have the technology. And we are going to rebuild this. We're going to turn this into the $10 million man box, I'm here to tell you. Let's zoom on in here so you guys can get the full graphic detail. Look at that. So it happens when you can't get air across your stuff and you keep keying it and heat builds up and heat builds up and heat builds up and all the components on the board start getting soft from the heat. Yeah, this screw head's busted off. That one's busted off. That one there. Man, what a mess. Oh well. We'll get her fixed up. Look at the inside of the lid. Look at that. Whole new case, new board, new cabinet, all new fans. We'll get her fixed up, no big deal. Alright guys, I'll be back. I want to take a minute and I want to show you all this here. This is part of the problem. So we get down here and we look, we can see where the wires they got soft, and because they weren't supported by a grommet or they weren't insulated in any way, they burnt through and they were ground into the cabinet. Here, let's back the zoom out a little bit. And they were ground into the cabinet. So you always got to try and grommet the wires. So the only reason I'm getting to rebuild this son of a bitch is because all the transistors are good. The transistors are junk. We were just going to rebuild it into a 2x8 or something. But all the transistors are good, so we're going to give them a whole new build straight up. So I'm tearing this bitch apart. We're going to get all of its components out of it that are worth salvaging. And yeah, you always want to grommet your wires. Drama can come from not doing it. The primary reason it burned out is because the fans. One fan quit chooching. Okay, I'll be back. Damn, look at this. Okay, so this is where the wires that passed through the heatsink were shorting out and burnt down. And you can see where they were laying underneath the heatsink, pinned underneath the heatsink. So here's your heatsink fins, right? These straight lines. Grab a ruler. Where the last heatsink sits, so just like that. Wires are trapped underneath, pinned, and you can see where they burned up here. You see where the smoke went up the cabinet. It got so hot that all the hot glue melted down, and then when he grabbed the box and yarded it out, it was still hooked up. And this is when we got this welding action. That's a hole, guys. Look at that. Straight through. Or it arced right through the cabinet of him trying to get this thing out of his truck to keep his truck from burning down because a fan quit. So now we got to go through and we got to find all the components that slid off the board. Probably won't do too much of that. I'm just probably gonna just replace with new. cigarette smoke, or the smoke off this box, is making me sneeze. Whew, this thing stinks. I will not be saving this one. I got a stack of dead cabinets over there, but I will not be saving this one. Anywho, let's get this out of the way for a minute. So when we jerk the heat sink out, or when we jerk the amp out, he slammed the thing out of his truck, trying to keep his truck from catching on fire, and I don't blame him. But look at this. Look at that. See this? It was all melted down onto here. God, that wire's burned clean through. Look at that. And this is all from shorting on a cabinet. Right here. It's all cabinet damage. Huh. Oh well, we're going to break it down into its parts. Well, we stripped most of the usable parts off this bitch. And they're sitting over here. We busted out that row of 16. That was, or this row of 8. That was a lot of fun because there was so much hot glue from the output combiner that had drizzled down through the pill strip. You can see it starting in here. We got all that dug out of there, and we got all 8 of these transistors out. So we're going to take this, and we're going to file it down in the trash. And now we're going to start anew. All brand new case, brand new board, brand new heat sink, brand new, brand new, brand new, brand new. Brand new it is. All right, guys. We'll be back here shortly. Well, we got half of the heart transplanted here. So now we got to take the rest of these burned up parts, clean them all up, resolder them, remount them, that whole 9 yards. So, but this 8-pill side of it's done. Now to this 8-pill side. Woo, what a mess. Well, we're finally to that point. Solder down these transistors. Everybody close up their lungs. Like that great, wonderful guy on YouTube says, AVG. Cancer. Evil. Smoke. So if you guys can remember, this is the side that burnt down. Now I've taken this apart, and I really got to look at it, there was a power lead that was underneath the heatsink, underneath this heatsink here. And I'm starting to be a little bit concerned that that's actually where the fire started. And the heat transferred up and caused everything to go liquid. But the only contributing factor was that it was still being run with a dead fan in it. I think if all 4 of the fans had still been running, I don't think we would have had this overheat issue, but it's kind of a moot point now that the whole thing has been rebuilt. Cancer. Every time I solder down a whole bunch of transistors like this, I think, man, I might as well go out and buy a pack of menthols. I do kind of miss smoking. A little bit, not a lot. Not one bad transistor. Just burnt up power wire. Heatsink, brand new cabinet, brand new board, all brand new pill strips, brand new power distribution bus. One thing I reused was the transistors. And I think I'm going to be able to salvage most of the transformers. I don't know, I got to see how they come out in the wash. I got to wash them next, get ready to mount them down. Every project I have sitting on the shelf is like this. It's going to take massive, all day, multiple days worth of work. I feel like I'm Bob Ross. Ever watch Bob Ross when we were kids? Yeah. Mr. Happy Trees himself. So over here we're going to put some happy trees. Oh, look at that, happy trees. Oh, they're just going to fill in the scenery. Just sit here and I talk about what I'm doing and then do it. Yeah. I was having a hard time soldering to this board. I had to take it and wash it with acetone. It's like they covered it in clear or something. A layer of goop on it that made it almost impossible to solder to. So this white grit that you guys can see barely on there is the end result of the chemical bath in acetone. Of course, I hand washed and got out the dental pick and the razor blade and had to dig. These last 3 were horrible. They all had solder that was down around the base of the transistor, between the top of the transistor and the foot. It was all wicked in there. From where this thing went liquid and shorted out and got hyper hot. I think he'll be okay, as long as he doesn't get it too hot in the future and pop a top off a transistor, because man, this thing has seen some heat. All the transistors tested good. They all had gains in the 50s and 60s, which is amazing to me. Amazing. Happy trees, happy trees. I mean, really, what else are you going to watch as a kid with no cable? Grew up in a house that only has got off-air television. Of course, I'm so young or so old that's yeah. So in the middle of the afternoon when you're home from school, you had Days of Our Lives soap operas, and then you had Bob Ross on Channel 4, which is the local PBS channel here. Okay. Now on to mountain down the rest of the parts. There it is, boys and girls. The end result product of about 7 hours worth of straight work. 8 hours straight work. You can take a lunch today. We had Mother Nature too, and I didn't even get out there and get my name called. Whew. A lot of work. So anyhow, tomorrow I got to run the coaxes on it and mount it in the cabinet, put in the coax connectors, run the power wire. So about another 2-3 hours on this and I'm done. Yeah. The more and more I look at this, the more and more I see that what happened here was this melting down here. Because of all of our fires started here in this corner of the amp. What happened, see this is a key giveaway, is this heat sink here was making contact. If we flip the amp over, oh no, I gotta get the old board out of the trash. I ain't gonna bother with that. The heat sink was welding itself to the cabinet. All the heat was started right here in this corner, this back corner of the amp. You see these charged transistors. That's the risk that you run with these older style boxes. They don't build them like this anymore. Either they put the wires up above them, or they're going to do like what I'm going to do. And I'm going to zip tie them up and have a nice little tight bundle that comes through here and turns, and it's going to come out through grommets over here in a corner and out through the case. The power wires were just coming out of the vent holes, and there was no zip ties on them holding them tight. And so what happened at some point or another, the amp popped up and the power wire flipped underneath the heatsink, so the heatsink was resting on top of the power wires, 2 of them. And the heatsink got warm enough that the jacket got soft and it shorted through on the heatsink fins and started making contact over here. And then the board started pulling ground from over here in this corner right here, and then that got hot enough that it caused underneath this section to melt up and go liquid, and then everything went to ground. So pretty clear these are the wires that were pinched underneath the heatsink, and it was shorted out, and that's what started this fire. Just shorted underneath there. And you can see the heat scarring of where it was trying to conduct the ground back through it. And that's the reason that all the pills and everything survived. It's the reason all that survived was because it wasn't trying to find ground up here, or it wasn't trying to find ground back through any of these other leads. It was shorted underneath and it was conducting through the heatsink and finding ground through the heatsink and through these screws up top. Because the ground bus on this box came over here on the corner and was grounding through the cabinet here. So the case is ground and the board was ground. So nothing up here melted down and let go. We just had a lot of solder damage from where everything went liquid and then started to short out, but most of the load was being carried through those wires. And of course it presented itself at the worst place here, where it makes contact with the positive leads. And this was the side that was attached over here on the heatsink. And this one lead was the lead that was shorted. But this guy got lucky. Got very lucky, his whole truck didn't burn to the ground. It damaged his bird meters and his power wire and his batteries. Call them back. And their batteries and yeah. But each one of these little white dots are still good, even though they're charred to holy hell. I soaked these in acetone and then scrubbed them with a wire brush and got all the carbon score off of them. But the next little bit you see is probably going to be another little hunk right after this. Is going to be me showing it inside the cabinet. Now all the 10 ohm resistors were fried or burn up or in the blob of goo in the cabinet. And replace these 330 ohm capacitors, and then every one of the 120 ohm or 120 puff capacitors here, 330 puff capacitors, and then the 120 puff capacitors. I had to replace each one of those because they were all melted down and their values had gone. But the 1000 puff caps on top of the output transformers were good. These wires were good. All the output circuitry was good, so we were able to save most of it. But yeah, 8 straight hours of teardown and 8 straight hours of reassemblage work. On to the next bit. I'm going to call it a night. So through the power of cinematography, we're going to change a whole day. Ready? Go. Done. I got to put the fans in the lid yet. This took like 12 and a half hours to do. I reused what I could, cleaned up what I could. It's got a little flavor of me in it. You know, this started out life as an X-Force. And then it came here, and I did my mojo to it. And the guy got more watts out of it than he's ever gotten out of any other box he's ever owned. It got hot. And some wires were laying underneath the heatsink that I didn't know anything about. And it caught on fire. It came back here, and it got reborn from the ashes. It's been a long day for me. A lot of phone calls, a lot of stuff. Went and got my dog's ashes today. But boys, girls, gentlemen, all the ships at sea. I think I'm going to call this a day. Books, my phones. Kid tomorrow. You guys have a good one. I'll be back later. Now when I say this bitch caught on fire, I am not lying to you when I mean that bitch caught on fire. Look inside that lid. Fans are all melted. I don't even want to touch none of this. Fans are all melted and burnt up. There's only one of these that are still running. One fan. So, bro, there it is. Never going to use any parts off that. It's going right in the trash. There's your new box, bro. Check it out. That's got 4 Evercool high flow, high velocity ball bearing fans in it now. And it's got your little indicator light on it that you wanted. So the way this thing's mounted is in the back of this guy's truck someplace. And he looks back through the window and he's got to see it. He's got to see the LED and go, oh, it's on. So 4 brand new fans. And this sumbitch is running. And I mean, it's running like a rape tape. So I got it down on the big 500 amp supply. And we're going to hit it just with the little 2-pill over here. So let me zoom back out. So what we got going on is a little bench 2-pill. We're going to hit it with the 955 right there. 955 5-watt slug in reverse. Back down here to the bench 2-pill. Out of the bench 2-pill. Into the straight 16. Out through the RG400. And into the triple beam bird meters. So let me get this thing off the tripod and we'll go on to shooting this video. But brother, this thing's running. Give me a second. This thing is badass. Okay, so first we're going to show you input tune. So let's go around the loop here. That's a 1000-watt slug with a 5x multiplier. So it's reading roughly in the 5,000-watt scale. So we're going to look at this center set of digits, the 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. And we're going to add 2 zeros to it. That's a 5,000-watt slug in PEP average. So pardon me, it'd be an average. Okay. And then a 100-watt slug in reverse back from the Bird 10,000-watt dummy load. Because it's getting about 5 watts of reflect. And it's almost burying the scale. So, I don't know. Almost 5,000 peak going in and I'm getting almost 5 watts of reflect. I call that a good deal. We're going to use the 5-watt slug between the 955 and the 16-pill. The 2-pill has been bypassed. And I just wanted to show you the input tune on this thing. I spent a lot of time working on this last night. Now, as we all know, the Striker puts out about 90 watts worth of power. So, hello, BBI. Getting about a half a watt of reflect with 90 going in, which is scooching good. We're getting about 500 bird, hopefully about 500 to 600 bird. We're seeing about 2,000 peak out of it. So let's go ahead and we'll hook up the 2-pill here. Set this down out of the way, smooth that microphone. So, take the 955, plug it in here to the little 2-pill. Plug the little 2-pill into the 16-pill. Just like that. Turn that bad boy back on. So all we did, coordinated here in my hand, is we hooked up the 2-pill and we hooked up the 955. Now we're running on the big 500 amp power supply at 15 volts. So when we key it and we go to full load, it's dropping about 14.87, 14.9. So check this out. So just hitting it with a 2-pill. Oh, RF getting in the mic. Hello. 45 to 4800 PEP on this meter. and 2,000 bird over here roughly to 2,100. And what I'm doing over here is, see down in here is a bird meter. We're going to turn on a bird peak kit. Check this out. Hello in the corner. Hello in the corner. Hello, got down. That's hitting it with a 2-pill. Now, as you can tell, the bird peak kit's a little bit more generous than the one that I use on the bench all the time. It's just the difference between the two different slugs. If I take that 5,000 watt slug and put it in that hole, it'll read the same. But as it stands, hello, got down. Hello, got down. Consistently consistent. Hello. It's about 3.5, 4 watts worth of reflect. Maybe I got down. Now I want to show you guys something. That's on them burn to ground transistors. I literally took apart every single thing inside this box, transferred it over into this cabinet, and before I did, I tested every single cap, resistor, and part. And if it tested good, I reused it. If it didn't test good, like all the 120 puff capacitors, for some reason those are all junk, I did not reuse them. But those are all Toshibas, and they all came from their original spots. Literally back from the ashes. The primary difference is that the power wires that feed this bus are all zip tied together, nice and clean and neat. They come out and they exit the cabinet on the grommets, through a grommet. They do not come out through the fan vents or the exhaust vents on the bottom of the cabinet. And they cannot, because they're all zip tied together, loop underneath one of the heat sinks and cause a short. Homeboy, straight from the ashes of death, your X-Force 16-pill BBI rebuild is back up and running. Back up and running. All new fans, all new cabinet, all new power wire, new grommets, new everything. And it's running. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to have some policy changes coming out here shortly, so make sure to follow on the webpage. They pretty much have to do with payment and how long I'm willing to wait on payment and how I'm going to go about holding on to these repairs until people pay me when they're done. But those posts will be up on the page here probably by the end of business today. Guys, I don't get to be here without all of you. I really don't. I don't get to do these kick-ass projects without you guys sending them here and, without y'all paying me to do them. But I'm having a blast doing this, and I'm staying very, very busy. So from the bottom of my heart, I say I appreciate all you guys and I appreciate all your support. Gentlemen, if you're not a fan, don't subscribe. But if you are and you've enjoyed this video, click right down here at the bottom right and subscribe. And you get notifications every single time one of these videos come out. Little bench 2-pill, doing about 450, 480 peak watts. Hitting a 16-pill, doing 2,000 to 2,100 bird. And burying that thing over in the corner on PEP. This thing was a burned up train wreck when it got here. And now it's back on the air. I'll see you guys. Bye.